It is 2 p.m., December 1st, 1958, at the Our Lady of the Angels Catholic School in Chicago, Illinois. The children and teachers are screaming in fear as the flames lick under the door, knowing that at any second they will be in a hell that they had only seen in their imagination. There are children gathered at the window, black smoke bellowing around their tiny faces. The fire department arrives on scene. One of the members saying, "It looked like it was raining children." The firemen scream at the children, "Stay there, we are coming for you," but they disappear into the smoke, where they are lost, buried in the ashes of the past. Welcome to Find Me in the Dark, a podcast covering all things true crime. This is episode 8, Our Lady of the Angels School Fire.
Find me in the dark. Find me in the dark.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Find Me in the Dark. I am your host, Eric Phillips, along with my co-host, Robert Prestige.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
So what's going on, birthday boy?
Not a whole lot.
Rob is the big 57 years old today.
Close. Pretty close.
Yep.
35.
79. 79.
35.
You can do a lot of things now that you're that old.
Yeah.
Get a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You can hunt with a crossbow. They can let you do that because
Oh, yeah?
you can't pull a pull a bow anymore. You got to use a crossbow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Find Me in the Dark today. How about that? We are covering the Catholic school fire at Our Lady of the Angels in close to our hometown of Chicago, Illinois. We're not that far outside of it, but it seems like not that many people knew about this. I mean, it is quite a long time ago, but you don't hear about it as much. And I don't know if it's because of the whole, maybe it's because like these other podcasts, they like covering just a lot of like the actual like slayings and stuff like that, where it's like really very personal, person to person type stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But this is a mass killing.
Yeah.
There's-
It's we definitely think it's arson, but
yeah.
and it's gone. It went down as an accident.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that it was. I mean, it was definitely arson
for sure.
But so our last episode, that we put out, right? We did Virginia Tech Part 2.
Yep.
And then the bonus episode with Scalia, which seemed to be
awesome.
Yeah, it seemed we were received pretty well. We've noticed a big bump in our numbers, and the cool thing about the bump in our numbers is that it's not on the new episodes. It's
Right.
like you see people starting from episode 1, which makes me think that they like it enough that they want to listen to it concurrently, like they want to, or in order. I mean, they want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Did we do anything else? We did that
The micro.
Yeah, we did that. There's so much shit that we've done that it's like really hard
Yeah.
for me to keep track of it. But yeah, we did that micro episode.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
So we might as well just
Get into it.
yeah, we might as well. Why not?
Yeah. There we go.
Find Me in the Dark contains graphic content that may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Our Lady of the Angels was a Roman Catholic school that was opened and operated by the Archdiocese of Chicago in the Humboldt Park area in 1910. The original plan for the building was to hold church services on the first floor and classrooms on the second floor. In 1949, the Archdiocese built a full church next to Our Lady, making it so the original building could operate solely as a school. In 1953, the Catholic Church of Chicago built another 2-story building next to the church and school that was meant to manage the overflow of children from Our Lady of the Angels.
Despite their attempts to manage the mass amount of students, the classrooms were still overflowing with children. There were over 1,200 students total, with some classes having 50 or more students. Along with the school being severely overpopulated, the building also fell short of meeting various codes and standards. To be more specific, here are some codes that Our Lady failed to meet. The number of exits was not sufficient for the number of students in the building. They did not have enough enclosed stairways, which was required by the Illinois Building Exits Code. There were 5 interior and 1 exterior stairways. Only 2 of them, which were located in the north wing of the building, were enclosed. While this is not a violation, this mistake will be a large part of the events that will unfold. The exterior of the school was made completely out of brick, while the inside was almost entirely constructed of wood and other combustible materials. The floors also have been coated multiple times with flammable varnish and petroleum-based waxes. There were only 2 fire alarm switches inside the school, both being located in the south wing, and neither of them were wired to notify police. Both switches closely resembled light switches and were not labeled as fire alarms. The school was not equipped with a sprinkler system. There were multiple fire extinguishers in the building, all of them being mounted on the wall 7 feet from the floor.
Man, okay, so there's a bunch of things that we have to go over, like, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you have fire extinguishers 7 feet tall in a room full of 3 feet tall people? I mean, and those nuns can't be that tall unless it's like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what I mean? Like,
For
there's
real.
no fucking way.
Yeah.
Why are you varnishing shit with? But you might as well just be painting the rooms with gasoline and stuffing fucking, old newspapers in the wall.
That's
Like,
pretty much the way it was.
dude, it sounds like it was just built to burn.
Mm-hmm.
Built to burn. Because, when you start to hear the story, which you guys will hear soon, it sounds like they had no time. There was no time to do anything. And, there's no sprinkler system, which, I don't know much about 1958 or the early, 1960s, 1950s. I don't know how prevalent sprinkler systems were. So I don't know about that one. But, the switches, that turn on the fire alarm.
You also probably look like they turned on the lights.
That look like they're not labeled. So you could be either turning off the lights or, calling the fire department. But
It's nuts.
But it's not even to call the fire department. It just makes noise.
Right.
And lets everybody else know, like, hey, this is making noise. There's fire. So let's get this straight. There's no way really to put the fire out. There's a bunch of shit inside the building that's flammable. Mm-hmm. There's too many kids in each class, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
The varnish, the
stairway, the lack of fire exits.
Yeah, and then just the fact there's a ton of fucking flammable books and shit in there. There's paper everywhere. It just seems, and there's really no contact with the fire department. There's just no way to do it unless somebody calls the fire department. Mm-hmm. By the time you call the fire department in a building like that, it's too late.
Yeah, and we find that out soon.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude.
Well, and they did say that they passed the fire inspection just weeks prior to this happening.
Yeah,
but they were grandfathered in from the prior when they built the building originally in like the 20s, right? Or something like that, right? And so Yeah, so they were grandfathered in, so they didn't have to make all these updates.
Well, I looked
Doesn't
it
make
up,
any sense.
and in 1958, in order to pass that test, all you had to do was not be on fire in that moment.
That's the way it
That's
seems.
what it seems like, dude. Like, man, they were just different people, but it's not even that long ago.
It's really not.
Like, has science developed that much that we know so much more about fires? Like, that's just crazy. Or they just didn't give a shit. They were like, what are the odds of this happening?
It happened not too many years prior.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
the same city.
In the same city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, now we're going to talk about that day and the events. And
It's very, very graphic.
I know I already warned you, but as a parent, I'll speak out to the parents out there and say that this is extremely tough. These are very young children. There's a lot of them, and basically explaining a lot of helplessness from parents and from other members of their community. So if you don't want to hear that, I don't blame you. Go ahead and stop it. Just give it a like and a review and say we did great. Thanks. Well, here's the story. It is now December 1st, 1958, sometime between 2 and 2:20 p.m., shortly before the students would be dismissed. The students and teachers were finishing up their day, assigning homework, and going over the day's lesson, not knowing of the fire rising from below. At 2:25 p.m., a teacher sent 2 students to dump a waste barrel into the trash receptacle located in the school's basement. The students rushed into the classroom and notified the teacher of a strong smell of smoke coming from the basement.
The smoke crawled up the stairs and began to consume the second floor, still going unnoticed for multiple minutes. The students and teachers on the first floor were still unaware of the fire taking place, due to the large wooden door separating the stairs and the classrooms. The fire was gaining strength. The smoke was growing thicker and darker. The opening at the top of the stairs on the second story and the varnish on the wooden floors were directly feeding the flames.
The heat became so extreme that a closed window blew completely out unexpectedly, creating more oxygen to feed the fire. James Raymond, the school janitor, was walking outside past the school when he noticed a red glow through the window of the school's first floor. James ran into the school and into the furnace room, where he was met by the fire. He could see it was climbing the stairwell. He knew he needed to get the children out. He ran to the school's rectory and urged the housekeeper to phone the fire department. James made it to the classrooms and began evacuating the children using the fire escape.
The first floor was evacuated first, due to them being the first to be notified of the fire. A teacher that was exiting the building on the first floor pulled one of the alarms before exiting. It did not go off. After gathering the children in the church, the teacher returned to the school and pulled the fire alarm a second time. This time it rang. Unfortunately, it was little help. Since we stated earlier, the alarm was not set up to notify the fire department.
There were over 300 students and 5 nuns on the second story. After realizing there was a fire, it was already too late for the people of the second floor. Their escape route was completely engulfed in flames. Their only hope was to jump from the window or hope that the fire department would get to them before the fire did. The students and their respective teachers sat in semicircles and prayed, hoping for a way out. The heat and smoke became too unbearable as it consumed the small classrooms. Children began to fight and claw their way to the window, all of them trying to suck in the smallest amount of fresh air.
The heat was too much. Children began jumping from the window, some even said to have been thrown by their teachers, smashing on the concrete over 25 feet below. The city is filled with the sound of children screaming for help. The first engine from the fire department was dispatched only minutes after the fire was reported, but due to all of the confusion, ended up at the wrong building, costing them many precious minutes. After realizing they had arrived at the wrong location, they headed to Our Lady of the Angels.
Upon arrival, the fire department was met with a large iron fence standing 7 feet tall around the perimeter of the school building. It had been locked due to frequent vandalism. Again, precious minutes were wasted attempting to smash the lock on the fence. Finally, the gate was opened and the fire department made entry. The entire city was standing outside of Our Lady, trying to think of ways to get their children out. The janitor had one ladder that reached the second floor, so he was able to save a handful of children, but that wasn't enough.
The minutes wasted at the wrong building and the breaking of the fence lock proved to be costly. The fire was alive, enormous, and everything in its wake could be consumed without a fight. The firemen put ladders to the windows of the second story and were able to save over 160 students from the inferno. The bodies they were carrying out of the school were not the same that bounced into class that morning. Some were so badly burned that they were literally crumbling to pieces in the firemen's arms. These men and the city had never seen devastation like this before. Dude.
Yeah. That's just insane. There was just so much that had to come together for this to happen. I mean, with just the way that the school was built, like just the general layout of the school.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that the staircase is almost like having a chamber up the side of the building that
That's exactly what it was.
is just like leading the fire up to every single goddamn room that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And
overpopulation of students.
Too many students. You know, the fire alarms that don't go to the fucking fire department, and then just the fence with it being like locked shut. That just seems insane to me.
It just seems like everything that could go wrong went wrong that day.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Nothing worked in their favor at all.
Yeah.
It's just in thinking about the people that were watching that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
parents of these children sitting outside the building and, you know, trying to do what they can, you know, and like I said, I know other people in the neighborhood were bringing their ladders over, but they weren't tall enough to reach the second floor. They said that the windows were like 25 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And it's terrifying to think that actually happened, and like people actually witnessed that, and these kids had to deal with this, you know. And I know you were talking about one of the firemen and having like major PTSD from that book that you read.
Yeah, it's called "To Sleep with the Angels." I can't remember who read it, but who wrote it, but it's an incredible book it's really in depth. And what I think they had interviewed, I read this when I was like 16, so I can't remember much about it, but I do remember the wife of one of the firemen saying that he like once or twice a week after that, like every week after that you know, in the middle of him sleeping, he would jump out of the bed, go to the window, open it up, and scream like, "Stay there! I'm coming for you," you know.
Ugh.
And I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that fireman, like one of either his kid or his friend's kid was in that building, and he saw her disappear into the smoke.
Man, I can't.
It's just like we had talked about before recording this, that this is before the time when you worried about stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you didn't have to really worry about somebody attacking your kids like that.
School was a safe place.
That's what you would think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, school, church.
I mean, just most in general. You know what I mean?
Right.
The neighborhoods, you know, back in those days, and I mean, still, even in Chicago, like, I mean, we're from that area, and you know, neighborhoods stick together.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you look out for, you know, your own you know, the people that live in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, I know those parents and those kids when they walked in those, you know, in that school, and the nuns, like, they never thought anything bad was going to happen.
There's no, not even a, you know, and who knows how much worse it could have been if the janitor wasn't walking by at that exact moment, at that exact time.
Exactly.
To see that stuff, you know, and be able to think quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know what to do. You know, I'd be in a panic.
Right.
And, you know,
it's good that he was able to get, you know, I'm pretty sure everybody on that first floor was able to get out. And I know a lot of people on the second floor and children were able to get out. It was just that one wing of the building that just, you know, They were stuck. I mean, there's nowhere they could go. There's no exits.
I would like to, just wonder how much different it would have been if they would have been able to get the lock open quicker, or if they didn't go to the wrong goddamn place in the first place.
Right.
How many more kids could have been saved, and I don't know. I don't know. The whole. I mean, what can you do at that point? You can only barricade doors, and barricading shit is just, it's just pushing off the inevitable of that fire.
And we're gonna get into that. We're gonna kind of dive into each room that had the mass casualties, and kind of what happened in those rooms coming up here.
Yeah, and we're also going to get into a little bit more about what the community did to help, because there's a few people that helped a little bit more.
For sure.
So we'll just get into that now. Room number 208 was a 7th grade classroom with 47 students total. 12 students' lives were lost in the fire, along with their teacher. There were several ladders that were able to reach the window of 208, which allowed a lot of the children to be able to escape.
Room number 209 was an 8th grade class where only 2 children lost their lives due to the quick thinking of the teacher who put books at the base of the door to slow the entry of the smoke. There was also an awning below one of the windows, making it safer and easier for the children of 209 to jump to safety. One of the students' father climbed on the awning and was assisting in getting the students to safety. Thinking that all the children had been removed from the classroom, the father and teacher climbed down from the window. That is when they realized that there was still one child lying on the floor in 209, but by then the conditions in the classroom were too extreme. The child was killed when the roof collapsed.
Room number 210 was a 4th grade class with 57 students total, 28 of which perished in the fire alongside their teacher, making this the highest death toll of any classroom. 2 boys had attempted to open the classroom door in a panic, which allowed the fire to consume the room quickly and attack the children at a much faster rate. The children in the classroom were weak and small, making it almost impossible for them to climb the window ledge to safety. The odds were against them in almost every way imaginable.
Room number 211 was an 8th grade class that normally had 63 students, but 13 boys were assisting in a clothing drive at church and 2 other students were homesick, leaving 48 students in the class at the time of the fire, 24 of them dying. Firefighters were at the window in the process of saving the students when the room suddenly flashed over and all the remaining students were instantly killed.
Room number 212 was a 5th grade class with 55 students, 26 of them dying in the fire, along with their teacher. All 26 deaths were caused by smoke inhalation.
A total of 22 engine companies and 7 ladder companies responded to the 5-alarm fire at Our Lady of the Angels, along with countless other emergency responders and members of the community that aided in the effort to save the children. They saved countless lives that day due to their heroism and bravery, but they will forever think of the 95 lives that were claimed by that fire, wondering what more they could have done to save them.
A few years after the fire at Our Lady of the Angels, a student, a 10-year-old boy who will remain unnamed, confessed to starting the fire that killed so many that day. He was given a lie detector test where he was asked very specific questions about the fire inside the building. His answers were proven to be truthful. Though his tests seemed to be accurate, the results were not released to the general public.
Due to his confession, test results, and other pieces of evidence not released publicly, the case was taken to family court in 1962, where Judge Alfred Celia would preside over the case. Judge Celia was a highly respected judge in the area and also a lifelong devout Catholic. During the trial, the boy recanted his confession, resulting in the judge throwing it out as evidence and ultimately dismissing the case due to lack of physical evidence. The judge believed the boy to be innocent, and he had stated that he feared for the boy's safety if he was reported to be responsible for starting the fire that took the lives of over 90 children. Judge Celia declared the Catholic Church had already been through enough.
To this day, the fire at Our Lady of the Angels is classified as accidental, despite majority of the city and its officials believing it to be arson. After the fire, the city, and many cities around the country, began implementing regularly practiced fire drills and escapes. Sprinkler systems were a must, and fire exits were a necessity. The fire changed this city forever. The screams of their children echo in their parents' mind, and their screaming faces are burned into their eyelids. There is no recovering from this. No sleeping. No days without the memory of life before the fire. Rest in peace to all of the children and teachers that were lost in the fire at Our Lady of the Angels. So yeah, man. That is Our Lady of the Angels, which is a very unknown story about a very horrific, in my opinion, crime.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Can I, before we go any farther in this, Eric, can I just ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Our next episodes, like the next 30 of them,
Mm-hmm.
can they not be about little children?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
It'll be about big children.
This is yeah, man.
It's rough, dude.
It's constantly. I mean, so many innocent lives that were lost in this. For really, I mean, I really think that little kid did it. The 10-year-old.
So do I. And there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, they talked about him. He had confessed to starting other fires,
Previous arson cases that he had already been pinned for. And but I didn't really think that it was necessary for us to go and fucking drag this kid through the mud.
No.
Since, he was probably born in 1948.
Right.
And if he's not proven to be guilty, I don't want to be dragging his name
Right. Exactly.
through anything.
I really don't get how the judge was able to just dismiss it. I mean, he said things that nobody else would know about that fire.
Yeah, but then he recanted it. So
It doesn't mean that he didn't say it.
no, but it's straight up. I mean, I don't know what basis the confession was under, but if it depends on what happened with, he's a minor,
Right.
And if
all
he's
that
held
stuff, yeah.
and interrogated and told, and plus there's no one's being held accountable in 1958.
Sure.
They could be like, hey, what about that one room on the northeast side that had that fire? Remember that part?
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, the northeast part. It's just like feeding him information like they did in The Innocent Man and West Memphis 3 and
yeah, the
all
list
that
goes
shit.
on and on.
Where they
and
have
on and
19 hours of interrogation with 1 hour of audio.
on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, back then, especially in Chicago was and is historically corrupt.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine how it would feel to be in, because this is like the Humboldt Park area, and we've both been there, and we know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, it probably wasn't as densely populated, but it's still a community, and it's still
It's a very proud community.
And obviously, with it being a that type of school, especially a Catholic school, with how many Catholics were in Chicago at that time, and it being an overpopulated school, you have, I mean, how many students was there? Like
1,200, something like
1,200. So if you think about a Catholic family, that's like 10 families. No, but just that many families, just to think about how many families were affected in just a single day. And we kind of say it, I think in our last part, like there's life before the fire and life after the fire. And we really only touched on the aftermath for one person, because that was really the only things that I could find about people that were actually there talking about it was from that fireman.
Oh yeah.
And really not even necessarily from him, it was from his wife or whatever, because I would imagine that he doesn't really like bringing it up because he already can't stop thinking about it.
Well, I know that there's a couple articles, and they did like a 50-year thing on it, and they were talking to some of the survivors and things like that. And it's hard to get through,
Oh, yeah.
In these, to this day, I mean, you're talking 50 years after that happened. I mean, they're still terrorized by it every single day of their lives.
Yeah.
It's unfathomable.
Well, and it's just to think about the bravery of the fire department and the people of the community, because none of them were equipped to be there.
Right.
Not even a chance. I mean, if you look at like 1958 fireman garb. It's like a fucking apron with a pickaxe.
Pretty
like,
much.
And you just like, just blow at it.
Right.
Like, you know, the ladders are dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have like the fucking like hoses and shit that they have now. You know, they basically have like everybody just circle the building and spit on it. Like
Really, it is.
I mean, the fact that they were able to get that many people out, and then just the picture in my head of the fireman and the dad on that awning just fucking yanking kids out of there, like that's the most gangster shit
For sure.
Like,
And they also said that the priest, he was there helping, kind of in the same aspect, and pulling children out of windows and things like that.
yeah. I've also heard some like eyewitness accounts saying that, you know, when some of the kids were jumping, of course, but that there was, I'm not going to, you know, say it's 100% sure, but that some nuns were tossing them out the window.
Yeah, there was some kind of, I remember reading an article about that, and a couple people that had survived said that they remember seeing the nuns literally pushing children out the windows or pushing them down the stairs, things like that.
And I read a lot of articles that are trying to be very dark about that, but it's like split second decision. It's either, you know, 25 feet to the ground, maybe you break your legs and you got to be in a wheelchair, or you're just fucking gone.
Yeah.
Because that one classroom, I don't remember what classroom it was, but that dude's sitting there getting people out and then, bah, they're gone. They're fucking, it's like Endgame.
Yeah.
Snap, ashes, gone forever. Like,
Yeah, they had that flashback.
that's,
And
yeah,
it just-
the fucking, just the whole room flashes over and it's just gone, you know?
And then and then you're talking that this fire's been going for a while, and the ceiling's the roof's starting to collapse, which, you know, we lost a few children because of that. You know?
At least one that we know of for sure.
And it's nuts, man. It is absolutely insanity.
Yeah, I don't know how you recover from that. I don't really know what you're supposed to do. I don't think they rebuilt, did they?
They did. They still continued to have church there up until, I mean, for a while. For a while, I can't remember the exact date. But I mean, it's finally closed now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was years and years after that they still continued to hold services there.
Yeah. That's such a. I remember because I remember because I was in Chicago when I used to go to school, and I had seen that book on the shelves at one of the train stations or whatever, and I picked it up, and I just remember reading this and being like, how the hell does nobody know about this? Like, this is such a crazy story.
I didn't know until you told me about it a couple weeks ago and said you wanted to cover it.
Yeah, well, because nobody fucking covers it, and it seems to
I
be
mean,
pretty goddamn.
I get why.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, it definitely wasn't easy for us to research this and write this.
I mean, you hear about the Great Chicago Fire all the time being around here, 1871.
Something like that, close to that.
You know, which shit was going down in Chicago, man.
Yeah, you had that, and then right after that, well, you had the World's Fair. And
Then you get fucking H.H. Holmes just hops off the train like, hello.
Yeah.
Like
It's
building that
wreaking
shit,
havoc,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, there's just tons of shit going on.
The Murder Mansion. That place is crazy.
So yeah, guys, that is Our Lady of the Angels. Like we already said, rest in peace to everybody that was lost in that. And if there's any living, you know, survivors, which there possibly is, I hope you're living your best life and
Finding some kind of peace.
some sort of peace because you made it.
Yeah.
And that's something to be happy about,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And every day that you live is a way of paying respect to the people that don't get to live. And
Well said.
yeah, so Find Me in the Dark loves you. So we're gonna do the only thing I think that we have lined up that we know we're gonna do is that other micro episode. Which if I even tell you what it's about, you already heard about it then. So I'm not even gonna tell you what it's about.
We posted it though.
We posted it,
Well, we
but I
posted
posted
a
a picture.
picture. Yeah.
I posted a picture, which is like, you know, jokes on you, jabronis. I didn't tell you anything about it, but then like 20 people liked it. And like, I know the story. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, fuck you then, man. Don't fucking listen to it. How about that? How about that, dude? I don't know what our next big episode is. I mean, because we're coming up. This is what, number 8?
Yep.
So we're coming up on number 10, and I know
We wanted to do something special.
we
for
were
number
talking
10.
about doing something special. Maybe we'll, for number 10, jump into a serial killer.
There you go. We haven't done one of those yet.
No. And we've been talking about Alton Coleman this entire fucking time.
We've just literally
Just the whole time.
Since
I post that one picture of him like once a month with his fucking Jerry curl just
Yeah.
staring at me. I'm like, we could do that, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's just that one touches close to home to us. You know,
Literally.
his first murder was a young child here in Kenosha,
Well, they're,
Wisconsin, where
you
we're
know,
at,
Waukegan.
and he was born in Waukegan.
Mhm.
So, and we actually know people that knew him very well.
Very well.
One of our supervisors at work
Mhm.
used to hang out with him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's Our Lady of the Angels. That's kind of what we plan on doing next. We'll figure it out. We'll let you guys know as soon as we know.
Yeah.
But-
Do us a favor on all platforms, rate us and leave a comment, because it's not just like good for our ego. You know, that's not why we're asking you to do it. It's because the more reviews and comments and just ratings and stuff like that, it bumps us up and actually recommends us to more people the more that you review and write comments. So if you can do that, it takes 5 seconds. I don't even give a shit what you say. Just, you know, try and help us out. I don't know. Tell your friends about us. Yeah. Rob, good job today.
Yeah, same to you, brother, as always.
All right, guys. We love you. Find me in the dark. Out.
Peace.